was a orphan son of a and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished in squalor. Grow up to be a hero and a scholar. The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they had placed him in charge of the trade and charter. And every day while slaves were being slaughtered or carted away across the waves, our Hamilton kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter. Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned, and our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. His name is Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million things he hasn't done, but just you wait, just you wait.
Oh, hey, wait, pause. Thank you. Keep what you just saw tucked away in your brain for a little bit. We have some other stuff to cover first. We'll get back to it, just wait for it. Let's talk about motifs. Merriam-Webster defines a motif as a usually recurring salient, I don't know what that means, whatever, salient thematic element, as in the arts, especially, a dominant idea or central theme. In other words, it's a thing in art that pops up more than once. A word or phrase or sound or an image or a color or an idea that is recurring in a story. Some examples are pretty much any joke in Hot Fuzz.
You must be Sergeant Angel.
Yes, I am.
I'm Joyce Cooper. I trust you had a pleasant trip. Fascist.
I beg your pardon?
System of government characterized by extreme dictatorship. 7 across. Fascist!
Or the recurring Wendigo symbolism in Hannibal. Or the boomerang arrows from David Aja and Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run. Or other things that start with H. But let's focus on one specific thing that starts with an H. One of my top 3 favorite hip-hop musicals about the life of America's first Treasury Secretary. You guessed it. Alexander. What? What's that? Hamilton? I mean, because he says, I am the Alexa. Oh, yeah, okay. You guessed it. Hamilton. Created by, written by, lit by, probably, and starring Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now there are, and I'm ballparking this slightly, 800 million motifs in Hamilton. Ooh, by the way, spoilers. Go listen to Hamilton if you haven't. Spoilers. It's on Spotify. You have no excuse. Spoilers. Anyway, Hamilton overfloweth with motifs. Like...
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Lawrence, do not throw away your shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot.
Hopeless, I know she is.
I am helpless. How could I do this?
Hopeless.
They are asking me to leave.
Look around. Isn't this enough? He will never be satisfied. He will never be satisfied.
History has
motifs can even be instrumental, too. In a motif's simplest form, they train the audience to attach certain feelings or ideas to certain motifs, which is extremely useful for just letting the audience know things like when you hear the... That means, shut your mouth because we're about to toss some exposition your way. And a ton of these motifs are super hard to catch the first time around, which is why Hamilton benefits so much from repeat viewings or listenings or whatever.
There's double and triple meanings and layers upon layers. I mean, I've had to see Hamilton 8 or 9 times to get references that I didn't get the first 8 times that I saw it.
Like, it took me so long to realize that the 10 dual commandments
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 dual commandments.
is repeated when Hamilton's son Philip is learning the piano.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You know, Philip, that kid that, spoilers,
dies in a flippin' duel?
awesome example of how a motif can be used for foreshadowing too. But my absolute favorite motif in Hamilton, nay, in history, and the one we'll be focusing on for this video, is, wait for it. No, that's it. That's the motif. Wait for it. Let's go down the list. The main idea behind the motif is set up by Hamilton himself in the reprise for The Story of Tonight, as he talks to Aaron Burr, the man who will eventually, spoilers, murder Hamilton in a duel. Oh, and also Burr was originally portrayed by the unparalleled Leslie Odom Jr. Let's listen.
I will never understand you. If you love this woman, go get her. What are you waiting for?
Now that bit's important because we're setting up the main difference, and arguably the only significant difference, between Hamilton and Burr. Hamilton acts, Burr waits. And cue the first appearance of our motif in the appropriately titled song, Wait For It. This song gives us our first glimpse into how Burr's brain works. His parents are dead and left him a legacy to protect. He's in love, he's fighting a war. In his mind, he has everything to lose. And he's seen what happens to people who throw themselves into trouble or throw themselves into battle. They die.
Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, and we keep living anyway. We rise and we fall and we break and we make our mistakes. And if there's a reason I'm still alive when everyone who loves me has died, I'm willing to wait for it. Wait for it. I'm willing to wait for it.
Listening to the song and hearing it from his perspective, his point of view actually makes a lot of sense. And even though he's pretty much been set up as the quote-unquote bad guy up to this point, you actually really sympathize with him. But I mean, it's hard not to when he's this flippin' good at singing. How is he so good at singing?
Life doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, leaving anywhere. We rise and we fall and we break and we make mistakes. And if there's a reason I'm still alive when so many have died, then I'm willing to wait for it.
To be a motif, the thing has to, come back. Which it does in a song called Nonstop.
British defeated. Americans win Revolutionary War. Burr and Hamilton become lawyers and fathers. 1920s news reporter voice inappropriate for 18th century setting.
Hamilton and Burr star on pretty much even ground at the end of the war, both of them lawyers in a fledgling America, but most of the song is Burr witnessing Hamilton's crazy fast ascension, just marveling at Hamilton's non-stop, hey, that's the name of the song, work and passion.
Why do you ride like you're running out of time? Right day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you fight like you're running out of time. Keep on fighting in the meantime. Non-stop.
But when Burr's given the chance to take that same sort of initiative as Hamilton, by potentially bagging this crazy new thing called
The new U.S. Constitution?
Burr doesn't want anything to do with it. He decides to play it safe, wait and see. And as the audience, we're like, Burr, it's the Constitution. Why would you not back this? And Hamilton is like, Burr, it's the Constitution. Why would you not back this? Also pay close attention to the background singers during Burr's response here.
For once in your life, take a stand with pride. I don't understand how you stand to the side.
I'll keep all my plans close to my chest. I'll wait here and see which way the wind will blow.
Right when the audience is like, Burr, why you so stupid? We hear that wait for it motif, which we now associate with that sympathy and understanding of where Burr's coming from. So then the audience is like, oh yeah, that's why Burr's so stupid. We don't agree with him, we are still frustrated with him, but we understand him. And that motif is there to remind us of why we understand him. And now the question becomes, how much longer can Burr keep waiting for it until he realizes how much it's actually hurting him? Well...
The room where it happened, the room where it happened.
Hamilton is Treasury Secretary, he's Washington's right-hand man, and he just closed a deal to set his financial system into action with virtually no restrictions. And Burr is what? Just some lawyer? Is that even a real job? Come on. And Hamilton throws that in Burr's face in the best way possible.
When you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. But you don't get a win unless you play in the game. Oh, you get love for it, you get hate for it, you get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait.
And again, amazing use of motif here. This conversation wouldn't be near as effective if Hamilton didn't use the phrase that we so thoroughly associate with Burr's entire way of thinking and living. He's literally taunting Burr with everything Burr stands for. And those taunts and that motif lead Burr to a very significant revelation.
What do you want, Burr? What do you want, Burr? If you stand for nothing, Burr, what do you fall for? I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens.
Burr's finally done waiting for it. But it's not the last time we hear that motif.
Click, boom!
And oh, how the mighty have fallen. Hamilton's enemies find out about his affair. Washington, Hamilton's biggest supporter, is stepping down. Everyone thinks he's corrupt. It's just a big bag of garbage for old Al Hamilton right now. So we finally get Hamilton's version of Burr's Wait For It song, Hurricane.
In the eye of a hurricane there is quiet for just a moment. A yellow sky.
We're given this window into Hamilton's mind, Hamilton's reasoning process, and his reasoning here is everything I have, I got through my writing. My wife, my career, my legacy. I wrote my way out of everything. I wrote my way out of hell. I just need to write my way out of this, too. Now, there are actually two uses of the Wait For It motif in this song. The first is Burr's almost subliminal response to Hamilton talking about the death of his mother.
I was 12 when my mother died. She was holding me. We were sick and she was holding me. I couldn't seem to die. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it.
Wow. Talk about foreshadowing. Since, Burr shoots Hamilton. Spoilers. That second use of the motif is at the very end of the song. Hamilton is about to do the dumbest thing he did in his entire life, release a document recounting his affair in very explicit, yet not nearly as explicit as he'd like, detail totally up his marriage and the lives of everyone he loves in an attempt to write his way out of it.
I'll write my way out. Write everything down far as I can see. I'll write my way out. Overwhelm them with honesty. This is the eye of the hurricane. This is the only way I can protect my legacy. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait.
The motif here isn't a threat or throwing it in Hamilton's face, at all. It's Burr's advice echoing through Hamilton's brain, begging him to think about what he's doing. It's Hamilton's conscience, and Hamilton ignores it. And again, we understand why. Because of that motif, we understand how insanely hypocritical it'd be for Hamilton to listen to Burr's words of wisdom at this point. But the thing I think is really interesting here is that those words are sincere, they're concerned, they're afraid. Okay, let's step back for a second and really look at what makes a great motif. Because a great motif isn't just, hey, remember that thing we said earlier? Well, guess what? We just said that thing again! Motif mother... Like, it's novel or whatever, but it's not really doing much for the story. But a great writer, which Lin-Manuel Miranda super duper is, a great writer takes advantage of what a motif can do emotionally. Every time you hear or see a motif, you attach whatever idea or emotion is going on in your brain at that moment to that motif. For example, when you're listening to the song Satisfied,
I introduced him to Eliza, now that's his bride. Nice going, Angelica, he was right. He will never be satisfied.
you experience that sadness and regret that Angelica is feeling because she missed out on what would have been the dopest power couple ever. Hamilica. Or Angeliton? I don't know. OTP. So now, whenever you hear the word satisfied, you get this twinge of sadness or regret that from here on is tied to that word. Like hearing a song you used to listen to on repeat after a breakup, the motif has a specific meaning to you now. But here's the creatively exciting part. What happens when you bring back that motif but give it an entirely new emotional context? We hear the satisfied motif come back way later in the Reynolds pamphlet, right after Hamilton tells everyone he just cheated, like a bunch, on Angelica's sister. So Angelica rips Hamilton the following
Put what we had aside, I'm standing at her side. You can never be satisfied, God, I hope you're satisfied.
You still get that twinge of sadness attached to the motif, even if it's subconscious, but now there's a second emotion attached to the motif, anger. And the emotions attached to the motif, if established in a strong enough way, don't cancel each other out or eclipse the older emotions. They stack and compound and fuse to the point that when you hear that motif come back, there's this wave of all these different emotions hitting you all at once, even if they're contradicting emotions. If simple emotions like happiness or sadness or fear are primary colors, then motifs make it possible for us to paint with burgundies and teals and browns. Emotions that become harder and harder for the audience to wrap their heads around, making those emotions that much more overwhelming and exciting. Which is why, during the climactic duel between Hamilton and Burr, when time slows to a crawl and the bullet that will end Hamilton's life slowly creeps towards him, Lynn opens the motif floodgates, forcing us to feel as many conflicting emotions as possible so that we can understand and actually feel just how conflicted Hamilton is over whether or not he should pull the trigger.
I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory. Is this where it gets me? On my feet, several feet ahead of me. I see it coming. Do I run or fire my gun or let it be? There is no beat, no melody. Burr, my first friend, my enemy. Maybe the last face I ever see. If I throw away my shot, is this how you remember me? What if this bullet is my legacy? Legacy. What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. I wrote some notes at the beginning of a song someone will sing for me. America, you great unfinished symphony you sent for me. You let me make a difference, a place where even orphan immigrants can leave their fingerprints and rise up. I'm running out of time, I'm running and my time's up. Wise up, eyes up. I catch a glimpse of the other side. Lawrence leads a soldier's chorus on the other side. My son is on the other side. He's with my mother on the other side. Washington is watching from the other side. Teach me how to say goodbye. Rise up, rise up, rise up and rise up. My love, take your time. I'll see you on the other side. Raise a glass to freedom.
Aims his pistol at the sky.
Our emotional relationship to the words "wait for it" is one of the most complex and difficult in the entire show. And the motif helps us connect to Burr so thoroughly because he's feeling the same paradox of emotions that we are whenever we hear that motif. By the end of the show, those words for us and Burr mean sympathy, frustration, anger,
Oh, you get love for it, you get hate for it, you get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait.
fear,
This is the eye of the hurricane, this is the only way I can protect my legacy. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait!
and regret. Motifs give us a frame of reference for how much a character has changed by the end of the story, and Burr and Hamilton by the end of the duel have transformed entirely. In fact, they've switched places. For the first time in the entire story, Burr doesn't hesitate, he doesn't wait for it, he just acts. And Hamilton throws away his shot. But motifs don't just show us how characters evolved throughout the story, they show us how we, the audience, have evolved. If the story does its job right, our feelings about those motifs and the ideas and emotions behind those motifs are entirely different at the end of the story than they were at the beginning. The motifs hold up a mirror to the audience and say, look at how much your perspective has changed since we started, how different you are now. And sometimes, by the end of the story, even the motifs evolve. Listen again to this section from Wait For It.
And if there's a reason I'm still alive when everyone who loves me has died, I'm willing to wait for it. Wait for it. I'm willing to wait for it.
Now listen to this section from The World Was Wide Enough after Burr shoots Hamilton.
When Alexander aimed at the sky, he may have been the first one to die, but I'm the one who paid for it. I survived, but I paid for it.
All these complex and paradoxical emotions you feel by the end of the show are so important and so effective because the people in the show are complex and paradoxical. Here's Daveed Diggs talking about Thomas Jefferson, a person he played in the original show.
You don't have to separate these things with Jefferson. He can have written this incredible document and several incredible documents that we all sort of with things that we all believe in, and he sucks. I think those are both true, and those have to be both true. I think we really have to stop separating them, because that's where you get into trouble. That's when you stop letting people be whole people. I disagree politically with a lot of rappers that I listen to, you know what I'm saying? There's like sort of rampant misogyny and homophobia in a lot of rap music. That doesn't make them less brilliant rappers. They're both true.
The founding fathers sucked. Jefferson owned slaves, Madison owned slaves, Washington owned slaves. The dudes talked about the importance of freedom while also owning other dudes. Hamilton cheated on his wife, and then he told the entire universe that he cheated on his wife. His financial system left a ton of Revolutionary War vets penniless, and he apparently looked exactly like Tommy Lee Jones. And the musical doesn't act like these dudes were anything greater than that. It actively avoids deifying them.
I think it's so important to take George Washington off the pedestal. These were real people who lived and died. I think one of the things we really tried to do with the show is show them all as flawed. There's no saints in the show, not a one.
But, arguably, America wouldn't even exist today without Hamilton. He wasn't always a good man, but he was a great man. Plus, he looked like Tommy Lee Jones. Don't at me. And yes, everything I just said is a massive contradiction, with Burr being the biggest paradox to the point of referring to his late rival as my friend Hamilton, whom I shot. But the reason the show and these characters and these emotions work so perfectly is because life is a paradox. Life is a contradiction. Things can be good and bad. You can be both happy and sad. No one is pure evil, and there are no saints. You and me and everyone as human beings have up a lot of times, but we've also done amazing things. There is no black and white, just shades of gray and burgundy and teal and brown. That's life, that's truth, and nothing portrays that better than this story. So if anyone ever asked me what I think the greatest musical or hip-hop album or anything of all time is, there's really only one answer. Alexander. And the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad. What? It's not called... You're sure? Okay. I mean, in my defense, it was probably a pretty terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. 'Cause he was murdered. You're sure? Okay, sure. There's really only one answer. Hamilton. Oh, yeah, and that thing that I told you to keep tucked away in your noggin, where everyone literally laughed at Lynn the first time they heard Hamilton.
And the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. His name is Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million things he hasn't done. But just you wait. When he was 10, his father split.
Yeah, that one. Let's cut to 7 years later at the 2016 Grammys. See, the amazing thing about a motif is the exact same phrase can eventually mean something entirely new to the audience.
And the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million things I haven't done. But just you wait.
You just have to wait for it. Hey, thank you gals, guys, and otherwise so much for checking out my video. It's my first one of these, and it was like really hard to make, but also a butt ton of fun, so expect plenty more make stuff videos from me. So subscribe, like, share, refresh. I don't know how YouTube works. Also, big ups to Lin-Manuel Miranda and everyone involved in Hamilton. You guys made the best piece of art from the last 100 years, so congrats on that. One final massive big old thank you to all the people who donated a bunch of cups of coffee through my coffee account. Ko-fi? God, I hope it's not Ko-fi. Anyway, you people fueled my making this, so shout out to Jace, Jewel, Alex, Julie, Josh, Tristan, Amanda, Anonymous, Jess, Ice-Sipper. Thank you. And if you dig what I'm doing, if you're picking up what I'm putting down and you want to help me do more of it, head over to ko-fi.com/RoseLion and throw a few coffees my way. That sounds f***ing yummy. And as always, and by always, I mean starting right now, go make stuff. Go make stuff. Go make stuff. Go make stuff. I put my hands up for that one. I don't know which way to say it yet. Go make stuff. That's the end of this recording. Bye.